Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Bargain Bin, a show about speedrunning games all under $20. I'm Midnight Vesper, your host, and, well, if you've never experienced The Bargain Bin, here's how this works. For more current/digital games, we'll be using digital stores like Steam, GOG, itch.io, Ubisoft, etc. to look at the list/MSRP price. For retro games, we'll be using a various amount of price charging sites and looking for the loose price of the game. We do not count any sales or discounts as they vary from time of purchase. Couple announcements real fast. If you have missed out on any Games Done Quick hotfix shows, check out our archive of past runs and shows at youtube.com/gamesdonequick. Speaking of YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, hello. Feel free to join us over at twitch.tv/gamesdonequick to check out our live shows starting most nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. And while you're there, Hotfix is funded in part thanks to your subscriptions and bits. Please consider subscribing to help support future broadcasts. And of course, GDQ Sum of Best Segments has now launched on YouTube. It's a highlight channel with regular videos, just like our main channel, but with small highlight reels for all of our main events and hotfix shows. You can use !highlights in chat to find out more. Speaking of highlights, for what's coming on today for our show, as well as speedruns from the crypt, you can type in !schedule to find out everything that's happening tonight. And finally, Awesome Games Done Quick 2022 online will be starting January 9th. Visit gamesdonequick.com for more information and detailed events on the event. And for today, we have a pixel remaster of a timeless classic JRPG, Final Fantasy II. No, not the American Final Fantasy II, but the original sequel that was released in Japan in 1988. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and let our four heroes save the world and take it on over to our little leader controlling all four of them. Poor Scythe, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Thank you for the introduction. I'm just going to rename our characters, and then we'll get started. I did this in a bit of a practice earlier, and this actually turned out funnier than I was anticipating, because the last rotating character spot is going to be Bargain, with their names changing as we go.
And we do have a commentator, if our commentator would like to introduce who they are.
Yes, hello, I'm down. I'm going to be doing commentary for the FF2 run happening right now.
I'm ready for this run to happen. I'm excited.
Me too. I'm happy to run it as well. Thanks to Down for being here. Until about 2 hours ago, he was the world record holder of this category. But I did a practice run earlier today and just got the world record for this.
Congrats.
So I'm all set if everybody else is all set.
Let's go.
Okay, I will give a 5-second countdown, and then we should be able to good to go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Good luck on your run.
Thank you.
Good luck.
So, welcome everyone to Final Fantasy II. The story of Cecil and Cain and oh wait, no, that's not them. Man.
Wait, this is in FF4? Oh, man.
Oh, man. Did we load up the wrong game?
Yeah, I think we did. Anyway,
Well,
yeah.
fine,
So-
we'll play this one.
Just gonna explain a little bit of the start of the story, because as you see, there is a little cutscene that is completely different from the other versions, which explains what happens a lot more, like in more details than the other versions. And compared to the other versions, well, this run is going to be, I wouldn't say completely different in terms of like gameplay, but in some parts it will be. There's not going to be a lot of teleport spells being used, or a lot of fire tomes, sadly. But you'll see a lot of punching. That's for sure. So we're gonna start here at the start of this story. The four heroes, or the four orphans as they are now, their parent being killed in the raid of Finn and Finn Castle are being pursued by the Black Knights, which, well, you can't really beat them at the beginning, of course, so you just get killed, or not killed, but beat up. And you will be also saved by the Wild Rose group, or the Resistance, I guess you would call it. And here you'll also notice that you're alone in this room, and soon also notice that you're going to be missing one party member, which sadly we will not see for the the majority of the run, unless, spoilers, you know who he is. So there's a lot of stuff that we are not going to do, as like we're not going to talk to NPCs to know where to go. This game works on a I like to call it a trigger basis, where everything you do something to advance the story, something else changes and let you progress. As of right now, you will learn the Wild Rose keyword from Ilda, and usually you would talk to NPC to tell you where to go. Ilda mostly will tell you where to go, like, every time you talk to her, and most of the run is going to be you running back to her to progress. But right now we're gonna go back to Finn. We're gonna go north, go to Finn, and we're gonna meet one of the Resistance character. But for now, we're gonna fight every enemy that we meet, so we can, one, get money, and so we can also get unarmed levels and sword levels. Mainly so Farion later can use 2 different blades to inflict status effects, but that's not going to be for now. So in this game, of course, unarmed is definitely the strongest weapon, or the one for the speedrun anyway. But yeah, you'll see why.
But right off the bat, we're seeing a couple of key features of this game, one being the auto battle. So I can quite literally just press one button and that will repeat my commands over and over again for all of my characters. And it greatly speeds up the combat animations, which is obviously really good for the speed run. Another fantastic feature of this one is diagonal movement, which is not in any of the other versions of this game. So that can make us go through this a little bit quicker and keep things going. And then one other feature, which you might not notice unless you're paying very, very close attention, is you'll notice that Firion currently has, or the GDQ character, has 2 swords equipped in 2 different hands. And he's able to actually attack and split his attacks among targets, which as far as I know is completely unique to this game, as well as any of the other Pixel remasters.
Yeah,
and that allows him to hit 2 targets in 1 combat round, which is really good for speeding up the early going on this one.
Yeah, it also gives him 2 points of experience if he is level 1 or level 2.
Yeah, it counts as 2 attacks for the points of gaining skill proficiency. A lot of the early choices I have with my characters are meant to try to get them to certain levels so that they will reach certain thresholds at certain points. And I specifically need some melee skill because there is an upcoming boss about 40-50 minutes into the run that is completely immune to magic. So unless I have some physical skill, trying to get through that is going to be a real pain in the butt.
Yeah, also one thing that well, I wouldn't say one thing, but this game completely changed the I wouldn't say stat system, but the way every stats affect the game. In the other version, the evasion stat would be your speed in battle, but in this game, evasion does not matter for that. It's, in theory, we think it is the agility, but I'm pretty sure it is agility that is your speed in battle. Evasion also is not the percentage chance of running away from a battle, as in the other version. It kind of affected it a little bit. And also, most of the encounters in this game, I would say at least approximately 95% of the encounters are going to be runnable, minus a very few that are going to be later into the game. So yeah, you also see that after going to Semitfall and getting level 4 fist, or unarmed, I guess call it in this one. After that, after the surgeon boss, you will never see him equip a shield ever again, and also no armor. Only armors that give you agility will be used.
So yeah, at this point my characters are completely naked except for the GDQ character is rocking 2 swords in his 2 hands. But nobody else has any equipment currently equipped at this point in time. I'm actually not going to use any shields at all in this run, which is a significant change from the PSP version, which was the first version I speedrun of this game.
So,
Yeah, sorry, go for it.
So speaking of that, when you all were learning the routes of all the Pixel remasters, it's not. Was it hard to realize there were new strats that were going to be looked at, going to be viewed, or is it was when you started speedrunning it, they just kind of developed over time?
I think like a lot of people, when they have picked these up, especially for speedrunners of other versions of the same game, they have been using their experience with the other ones to as a basis to figure out what is working, what is not working, and then what they can use that for from that point onward. So I started pretty much exclusively with what I know from the PSP version, but almost immediately I realized that the step route that I used for that one, I had a developed step route where I would know where every single encounter was in the game, and I could take a quick save in advance if I was going to get something. It was completely out the window. And I think the biggest single change in this version from the PSP version, which is also works very similarly for the GBA version, is there is a Snowcraft minigame in those versions that you can hold X and then hold circle play and make obscene amounts of money for very little effort. But they took that out of this version when they created this one. So we have to actually make our money.
Yeah, there's not going to be need for a lot of money, except for I think 2 times, which is going before going to Salamand and after the Snow Cave. After that, money is not really needed until Lamia Queen, but after that, money is not really a problem, unless you're super unlucky.
So we have Bargain Minwoo, who has joined our party, and he is obscenely powerful in this version. And actually in all the versions he's extremely powerful. He has a ton of HP to start out. He has a whole wide range of spells that we can use, although we're only going to be using Cure and Life if our characters get hurt, and then we can use Teleport to get out of here a little bit quicker rather than having to run out.
Yeah, you also notice that he's not using the memory options to keep track of his inputs and everything, which makes it a lot easier to mess up when you're doing Life and Cure, because the cursor resets to the first position. So if you use Life and you click left to go to Teleport, but by canceling Life, the life choice, you end up on Teleport. So sometimes you might teleport out of dungeon by mistakes, which happens a lot more than I can count. So right now, every character that he has is rank 3, I assume. What he's going to try to do is find an encounter with 3 enemies or more, and that will give him experience on either Maria or Guy, like this one. So he's going to try to get them level to rank 4 unarmed before the first boss, which will boost their damage by a lot, since the formula for unarmed is absurdly OP in this version, or in any version for that matter. And unarmed at the beginning is by far the best way to do damage quickly.
There was a balloon enemy there. It's part of a bomb family of enemies that many people have seen in a lot of the games. I think it was first introduced in this version of the game, but it is extremely nasty enemy family in this version of the game, because they have a tendency to explode and do lots of damage to your party. And they tend to do it at the worst possible time, especially when they're ambushing you.
Yeah, those first balloon enemies, the green one, they're not like the most scariest version of that enemy in this game. You want to get some encounters with them in there, so you can actually build up your HP pool. Which the way to increase your stats in these games works almost the same way as the other versions, minus the downsides of losing a stat while you gain another one. In this one, you don't lose any stats, and what you want to see is you want at least some characters to gain agility, and you want Maria to tank a lot of hits early on. Not like that, but you want to see her take a lot of hits so she can build up her HP, so she doesn't die right away.
Do that. I'm gonna get it down to 1, then I'm gonna get him back up and res her.
Oh yeah, I didn't explain it, but the way you rank up your weapons in these games is based on the number of actions you do in the fight. Actually, sorry, I'm gonna redo that. It's based on the enemy rank and the number of inputs or the actions you do for, let's say, unarmed, magic, stuff like that. So to build up your rank 4 at this point, every enemy is rank 1 except the boss. So every enemy rank 1 requires 3 inputs or 3 actions to get, I think it's based, 10 experience. I'm not sure the numbers because it's just a colored red bar. But to get the first set of experience, you need to do the base action of 3. So later you're going to see enemies rank 2 or rank 3 and 5 up until I think 7 or 8. I think it's 8, but
I think rank 7 or rank 8 is the highest.
Mm-hmm. I think rank 8 is the Iron Giant, maybe. I didn't really check, but not like it's gonna matter because Iron Giant is way too far into the game to care. I mean,
my skilling has been going a little bit slow just because I've been getting unfortunate groups. Whatever, that's gonna be fine here. So I still need to get one more encounter where I get a skill up on Maria, and I need 2 more for Guy, preferably in the next couple of encounters because I'm about to hit the boss. This might do it so long as none of these enemies flee from me. It's something I have to consider. I'm just kind of keeping a mental count to track how many actions. Yeah. Didn't change my commands.
This is a good encounter to get experience because at the rank 3, you have a chance to actually not kill the soldier in one hit, and that's good because it gives you an extra hit or an extra point of experience. In some cases, it can help you, and some other slow you down. But it's also good because the soldier hits pretty hard, and most of its hit will gives you an HP boost after the fight.
I need one more fight on Bargain to get him to rank 4 with 3 enemies. Hopefully, this should do it. Okay.
This is good though. This is, I think, the last encounter before the boss as well. Or you might get one just before the boss, barely. So let's talk about the first boss. The first boss is called Surgeon. Surgeon is another enemy in the family of that soldier, but a little bit higher. Has 420 HP and a lot of defense. But since we're going to be rank 4 Fist, it really won't matter because we're going to do about 100 damage a hit with Maria and Guy, while the other just defend. And it shouldn't take more than two rounds, at least.
Target has 420 HP in this version.
Yeah. So he also attacked with Furion. Furion doesn't do any damage, but you want to build up his sword level, because the more levels you have, the more ranks you have in a certain weapon proficiency. A certain weapon, you have more chance to hit. Your accuracy is not higher, but if you're rank 4 sword, you can do, I think, up to 5 hits. And the way it works in this game is not one chance, it's more like 5 chance to hit the enemy. And that's what it gives. That's how they count their hit system. In the other version, it worked like it. In this one, I assume it still works the same, even for magic.
So at this point, I'm just going to continue to attack enemies to build up. At this point, I'm pretty much done building up skills, but I still need some money to buy some important supplies before some upcoming dungeons coming up. So I will continue to do that, and as part of that, now that I'm not manually tracking everything anymore, I've turned on the continue auto battle option so that it will automatically have start battles based on whatever my auto battle setting was last at. Since it's currently active, it will start the battles as quickly as possible. It will issue commands automatically based on whatever I was last doing with my characters, and then it will speed up the outro as well. And we'll just keep doing that for probably the first 30 or 40 minutes of the run, and then after that we should have enough supplies and money where I can just run away from everything and go through essentially a boss rush from that point onward.
So yeah, up until about 24-25 minutes is where you're gonna have the first shopping session. So right now, after killing Surgeon or beating Surgeon, he got the key item Mithril, which he's gonna bring back to the blacksmith of Altair. And this way, when you give him the Mithril, it actually lets you use a certain keyword on a soldier in the city of Basque to let you progress. And if you don't give him the Mithril, the soldier will never let you through. So after giving him the Mithril, normal players would, go back to talk to Ilda, talk to people around town, trying to figure out what to do. But since Forsyth knows what to do, we're just going to skip all that. So he's also picking up fire tomes here. 3 fire tomes are going to be used in a fight later to make it a lot quicker. And he also picked up another fire tome earlier, which will be used on the chest to get a really neat piece of equipment in a little bit.
I see a question in the chat asking, is this the hardest FF in the whole series? And I would say no. Certainly not for speedrunning purposes.
Not the hardest. Probably the one with the most RNG, I'd say.
It has a very high amount of RNG, absolutely.
I'm almost tempted to say that the entire run is RNG, but to some extent, the first quarter of the run probably not, but the end is all up to RNG. Since in this version, if you've played this before, you know that any on-hit effect is always 100%. So if an enemy has Death Touch, your characters are going to die, even though they're blocking the hit, and even though it deals no damage, you'll still die. So that's why he's gonna pick up 2 blades later that have on-hit effect. One is Sleep and one is Curse, which you will abuse on most of the bosses to make them stand around and do nothing.
Yeah, to expound on that, that's a bit of why we've chosen to use unarmed skill and sword skill for this. Unarmed happens to be extremely powerful and also extremely cheap, so you don't have to buy any weapons to utilize it. You can save money by using that on your characters. And then I'm using swords on Furion now, like the base swords that you start the game with, so that I can build up some skills. Then I will be able to use some special swords later on, specifically the Sleeping Blade and the Ancient Sword. It's either Ancient Sword or Ancient Blade, I can't remember the name exactly. But they both have on-hit effects, and that heavily impacts the routing of this game because every enemy and every friendly character that has an on-hit effect, for whatever reason in this version of the game, on-hit effects are 100% effective. So even if they do 0 damage, they will land the status effect automatically, and that heavily impacts the routing because we're hoping to use the curse effect and the sleep effect from Furion's swords later on to stun lock bosses, but that also means that enemies have the same advantage. So if they use a lot of stuns or if they poison us, it's guaranteed to hit and slow things down pretty significantly. And there's some late game enemies that can have like a guaranteed on-hit kill effect. So it's really the advantage really favors the offensive. Whoever gets to go first in combat. So ambushes are extremely deadly in this game.
This is why the game itself is super RNG at the end, mainly because since enemies also have that advantage, if you get ambushed and you're facing enemies with status effects, well, you're most likely dead.
Yeah, game overs are going to be a thing here. I'm hoping I don't have to quit out of the game and restart it, but I will if I have to, if it's going to be faster. The only thing this game does not have that we really wish it has was a soft reset option. But I mean, all the other quality of life enhancements that have been added to this game are outstanding and welcome additions, and I think the single most underappreciated new addition is the redone soundtrack for this game. It's absolutely a pleasure to listen to and is extremely faithful to the original game.
I was just going to mention that myself, that all the Pixel remasters, the sound, they did an amazing job of just remastering everything almost perfectly.
It certainly makes this a lot easier to stomach rerunning it and dealing with all the RNG and everything. If everything sounds great. Although I apologize if you guys are only ever hearing like the first 10 seconds of this battle track, just with the way speed of these battles goes.
So we didn't really explain what was going on all this time, but after giving the mithril, Furion is given an objective of stopping the dreadnought and going to Basque where the dreadnought is being assembled. He's too late, and the dreadnought just bombards two towns, which I think it's Puff, or is it? It's either Puff or Paloom, and Altair. And after that, you get the pass, which will let you enter the dreadnought. But right now, you cannot actually get to it. So you gotta find a way to stop it. But at the moment, you don't know how to stop it. So talking to some characters and learning some keywords, like right here, he's gonna learn 2 keywords on Sid, which obviously the best version of Sid and the canon version of Sid that actually he's I'm not gonna spoil it actually, but this is probably the best version of Sid in all the Final Fantasy games. And yeah, he's gonna learn the airship, and he's gonna learn Sunfire. And the way to destroy the dreadnought is to throw the Sunfire in the core, but now we don't know how to get the Sunfire right now. So using those keywords, he's gonna learn another keyword that will send him to get an item to access another place, which will help you get the Sunfire or where the Sunfire is located.
There's a lot of running back and forth in the opening 30 minutes of the game here, as I have to return to Altair twice in order to do that. I could take an airship to go back to Altair, but it's extremely expensive to do that, and it's just it leaves my boat doesn't leave me in a great spot there. So generally speaking, I'm only going to take flights from Paloom, or I think it's Poft. Can't remember the name. I can never remember which is which.
I think the top one is Paloom.
But I mean, it seems like a very poor decision to name 2 towns that are essentially connected by a boat, both starting their names with P. It's very easy to confuse them.
Yeah, there is a way to fly to most of the city, not all of them. Like Mysidia is not accessible, or some others, but most of actually I would say the entire continent, the entire map is accessible on foot. But we're not gonna go like northwest through the entire map because the enemies there are way too strong for him. So yeah, right now you learn the keyword Goddess Bell, which the Goddess Bell is going to help him enter the Cashflum Castle or Cashflum Keep, whichever version you played before has that name.
Well, I need that keyword in order to get Joseph into my party. And he won't, until I have that keyword and talk to him about it, he will not interact with me here. So we're going to go say hi to Joseph. And after I do a quick shopping.
Yeah, so he's going to buy a few potions and some antidotes / eye drops, just to be on the safe side. This is as safe as he can possibly be. There's a more riskier route. The riskier route would just completely skip any item shop, not getting any life tome for safety. So yeah, it's probably not the best choice to do that in a marathon run, or in this case, a run for GDQ.
So I just picked up 2 life tomes, so I have some additional recovery options, because now that Minwoo has left my party, he's not coming back, and he was my source of reviving characters that might have died or gotten exploded from the bomb enemies that we see very frequently. So I want to make sure that at least 2 characters are able to use the tome and cast it in case one of them goes down. Because if I teach it to one character and that character goes down, I have no way to res characters. So having 2 gives me a lot more flexibility and safety in a marathon, especially.
Yeah, and he's not actually learning them right now because there's most likely not going to be any need to learn it if you're lucky. In Snow Cave, most of the bomb family enemies right there will kill you in one hit because their explosion deals take up to 300 damage, and they hurt a lot. And if you're really unlucky and all 3 characters die, like the top characters, you can give a life to Joseph, but it's probably not the wisest decision because obviously Joseph is going to disappear at some point.
I'm making a quick return to Summit Falls here, but I have to walk this time just because I've taken the ship to Salaman instead. The only way to travel around by airship right now is to pay Sid to travel you around. I do not have control of the airship, and I don't have control of the boat either at the moment. In this version of the game, or in FF2, in the early going, you don't have control of those until much later in the story. So you have to pay NPCs to ferry you around to destinations, and they are on rails, essentially.
Yeah, and with the snowcraft that you get right here, you'll be able to access the snowfield on the north side of the map, and with that, access the snow cave where the Goddess Bell is located. And with that, going to the snowfield is gonna start encountering enemies rank 2. So if he gets a pretty good sizable fight there group, Farion could learn get some experience, but there's probably no chance he's going to be using Farion to fight any enemies in the snowfield / snow cave, mainly because Farion doesn't do enough damage to kill them in one hit, and even then he probably wouldn't be able to kill them in 2 hits if you're really unlucky with the damage rolls.
So if I was in the PSP or GBA version, while I was on the Snowcraft, I would have access to a mini game that I could play, which is essentially a memory mini game, and I could essentially abuse that to win as much as money and items that would sell for quite a lot of money. I could make as much as 68,000 gil for playing and winning that, and setting a new first place time in that, and then repeating that over and over again. I could essentially repeat that over and over again for 68,000 gil each time. But I don't have access to that in this version, so I have to do it the old-fashioned way. So I'm just going to punch everything, and we're just going to take a leisurely stroll on the Snowcraft.
Yeah,
almost winner.
And Joseph is by far the best character for unarmed at this point, since he starts with more strength than any characters you have. like any of your character have. Your character starts with I think 10 and 15, 15 for Guy, and Joseph starts at 25, and by that point, you most likely will not have 25 on either Guy or Maria. So by getting him to rank 3, he's pretty much on par with your characters at rank 4. So
Well, from this point on,
should have
I'm just
4.
going to start. I'm going to defend with Furion or GDQ character because his attacks are not guaranteed to do enough damage to kill many of the different enemies that I can encounter here. So in the effort of saving animation time, I'm just going to defend with him. Defend is also a new option here. It was in the PSP version, not in the GBA version, but it's a very welcome command addition, as it allows you can control your character's actions and manipulate their proficiencies and skills up a lot easier when you have that. You can just pass through and quickly. And also, it supposedly reduces damage received from enemies, but I've never been able to verify if that actually works correctly or not.
Yeah, I honestly I don't think it really matters that much. Or the damage reduction is probably close to nothing.
I mean, the biggest other change from this version from the other versions is there used to be a front and back row difference between characters, but they've actually changed that in this version to work more like subsequent FF games, where if you put a character in the back row, they'll take less damage, but they'll also deal less damage in combat. In the original versions of FF2, you could assign characters to be either in the front row or the back row, and characters that weren't in the front row could attack with melee attacks and do things like that. But if you put a character in the back row and tried to do a melee attack, it would automatically miss. So the only attacks those characters in the back row used to be able to do were ranged physical attacks like bows, or they could use magic. But they totally stripped that out of this version, which simplifies combat. And also, there's no more serious enemy rows at this point either. Usually, like the 2 columns of enemies that are closest to the party are considered the front row, and any enemies that are behind them are considered to be back row and unreachable from melee attacks. So the only way you could reach characters that are all the way in the back row would be, again, ranged attacks or magic attacks. But that whole system is completely gone in this one.
So yeah, a group of 8 enemies, they will all attack you in one round instead of the front 4, which makes it a lot riskier in some cases. If you're really unlucky with ambushes, you might die in these fights. Sometimes not. But
I mean, I'll just talk about my history here. I mean, I started with speedrunning FF1, specifically the PSP version, I want to say about almost 6 years ago now. And then at some point, I know there was also an FF2 version for PSP, and that I picked up a copy of both of those for a long time, but I started on FF1 PSP, and then I discovered that there was a tournament going on for a community that ran that game called the Total Chaos Tournament, and joined that. I did pretty well in my first year, and then we've run 3 other tournaments since then. I was never lucky enough to win, but I continued to run this game for a long time. I actually enjoyed it a lot, and nearly had the world record a number of times, but never quite got it. But at some point I got extremely interested in just running FF2, so I picked this up, and I started with the PSP version and ran that. And I think maybe a little bit less than a year and a half ago, I ended up getting the world record of that one, and promptly never touched the game again. Because nobody else was fighting for it, and I didn't feel like fighting against the RNG. There's a lot of RNG in that.
Yeah, most of the encounters in this cave on the PSP version, I'd say probably half of the encounters. Some groups are unrunnable, which is why you would actually use a fire tome in most of those encounters. But here you don't have to, because that whole thing is gone, and every encounter's bosses and a few questionable groups are also unrunnable.
This could be a dangerous fight. Probably okay here with the grenades, but they can definitely do a lot of damage here.
Yeah, groups of grenades like that in an ambush is deadly, and most likely will result in a game over, or a reset.
Everybody say hi and then bye to the beavers. They make their only appearance here, and unfortunately we don't even have to talk to them. We can talk to them for a pretty hilarious piece of dialogue. Bargain would tell us that he knows how to speak Beaver. And they would tell us where the shortcut is in that room to get out of the room. But even if you don't talk to them, the shortcut is there. So I didn't actually mention. I'll just mention briefly that this is the first version. This was the first FF in the series that actually had like false walls and things like that, where you could take shortcuts through a lot of dungeon areas. So I mean, it may look like I'm just randomly running towards a wall or a dead end, but if I'm happen to be doing that, it's mostly because I'm looking for a shortcut that is just not very obvious.
Yeah. So he also that encounter that he got from the chest. Where you use the fire tome, he actually got the ancient sword from it, and the ancient sword, like I said earlier, applies a curse on hit, and curse lowers your attack and your defense by a big chunk. So every boss that are hit by that will become really tame and deal almost no damage, except some bosses are still deadly even with the curse debuff. Lamia Queen, for example. But most of those bosses that use melee, like the boss that's coming up in the Gygas, the Behemoth, everything is gonna be super tame when you curse them. So the Adamentos here has a lot of defense, but since you have the Ancient Sword here, which whenever it hits, it's gonna lower the defense a lot, and it will allow your characters to deal up to 150 to 200 damage.
There we go. I got it on there. Some of my characters are not going to do a lot more damage with their attacks now that I've landed Curse.
And also the enemy is, I think this one is rank 5, so even one hit on it just gives you a ton of experience. And fun fact, the next boss coming up, Borgen, is also a rank 5, even though he's really weak and is probably not meant to be, a boss that you would lose on. But it's also a very nice boss to build up your unarmed skill to 5 on Marian guy. Maybe not Maria. Maria's experience right now is a little bit low, so I'm not sure she's gonna get level 5 from that.
She should be. Oh, she missed out on one of the fights somewhere. I'll have to get her. I thought she got an attack.
So Guy is gonna get level 5 unarmed here, which sets him up nicely for future fights.
This is probably the biggest joke boss in the entire run, because he only has 240 HP.
I just love
a pushover.
I just love how punching does so much extra damage in this version.
Well, the formula to do for unarmed is your rank with your strength multiplied by, I think, 8 if you have nothing equipped in your arms. So that's why it deals so much damage. It's ridiculous. So I hope you didn't get attached to Joseph. Joseph is just about to quit the party for good.
Hope you guys got to say goodbye to Bargain Joseph.
Goodbye. He's
not coming back.
Ooh. I don't think anybody would be coming back from that.
That's not gonna matter.
He's gonna come back, probably in a DLC later. If
God, I hope so. So these new pixel remasters, they do not. A lot of the later remakes, specifically the GBA remake, added a new storyline called the Soul of Rebirth line. And that was included in the PSP version and many of the mobile versions. But when they announced these pixel remasters, a lot of them were based on the original versions of the game. So a lot of the later remakes that had additional content are not included here. Which, and unfortunately, it's kind of a detriment to some games. It's not as big of a deal in some. But I mean, I would greatly like to have the FF1 and FF2 content back, at the very least. I feel like FF4 would be very, very difficult to add because there have been many versions with many different features. So I don't know how they would unify the versions.
Hopefully they think about it, had them as DLC at some point. Would gladly be a nice addition.
Also,
Hopefully, the labyrinth, if they can add it to this game too, that'd be awesome.
Mystic Crest remaster when? Please?
Please.
Square? Please?
I'm all for that.
I feel sad that Mystic Quest is not getting as much love as the others right now.
Please? Did she get her level? I think she did. Let me check her status just in case. Yes, she did. Okay. So I made up for that now.
Alright, Maria is back on track with rank 5 unarmed right now. And now we're not going to go back to Altair. We're actually going straight to the next objective, which is Cashon Castle / Cashon Keep. And I hope you really like the soundtrack so far, because that soundtrack is probably the best of all the versions I've heard. And
It's definitely Dylan's favorite track. Mine is the very end of the game. Actually, I have Tower of the Magi too. I enjoy it a lot. But it's the very last encounter that I'm planning to fight now. After I get into the town and go through a quick buying session, I am going to switch to running from enemy encounters, so we're going to speed things up going forward.
Yeah, from now on, the encounters are not going to be harder, but they're going to take a lot more time to beat, because you're going to fight some land turtles or ogres. Ogres most likely die in one hit, but the turtles sometimes don't. And it's faster to run away from them because their drop pool or their gil drops is not as high as the enemies that he's fighting before that. And as you saw, he got some warp tomes and some teleport tomes, and those are going to be used later. I think you're gonna use the warp. You're gonna learn warp and teleport on a character, and use that later to get out of dungeons faster, or travels back to floor. Which
I'm gonna punch this just because it's gonna be quicker than trying to flee from it. There's a very long message that says "escaped" every time I escape from battle. So if I'm only running into a single enemy, then it's probably worth punching that. But there's no way to speed up that message, really, and it's a little obnoxious how long it lingers on screen.
Yeah. He also left 400 gills here, because this is the last time he's going to use the airship, or pay for the airship, and that last trip costs 400.
Yeah, I have to make sure I just have enough money in order to get that airship, and then after that, we're good on travel at that point.
Yeah, he's not going to use the teleport and warp tones until later bosses, because unlike the other versions, in this versions, the fights, the big orange fights and the chimeras fights are always 4 enemies instead of being between 1 and 4. So there's a strategy that was found that made these fights a lot safer and a lot faster, and it's going to be worth it in the end to actually grab some extra items to use on other bosses. Same strategies, a lot safer as well.
Everyone say hi to Bargain Gordon, joining our party, but he's going to be very useless, generally speaking.
Gordon is the least useful character in this run, but Gordon is also the only character that is going to be used to. The second character is going to be used to cast or throw in items to help you. Not because he deals more damage or he has a higher intelligence stat, but just like Joseph. Unlike Joseph, I mean, his unarmed level and his weapons ranks are quite low, and he starts with a spear, and the spears in these games are pretty bad. Probably the weakest weapon, I would say, and the least useful.
I believe there's 7 weapon categories in this game, which includes fists, daggers, swords, axes, maces, spears, and I believe unarmed, and there's also bows, so maybe that's 7 or 8. I don't remember which one exactly. There's also a skill for shields. We're only really going to utilize swords for GDQ/Furion, and unarmed for just about everyone else. If some characters might come with magic spells, we'll take advantage of those. But the skill proficiency system in this game is entirely separate for every single skill, every single stat, and every single magic spell. So every character can learn a wide range of spells. And you might be wondering why we don't learn any spells. It's mostly because it takes a lot longer to skill up magic in comparison to specifically fists, usually. It just takes so much time and effort to do that. Plus, you would have to invest in ethers or resting at inns in order to restore your MP, because the higher level your spells, the more MP it costs to cast them. So you have to build up your MP reserves over time by casting spells a lot, and you have to cast the spells a lot, which results in a lot of animation time. And generally speaking, it's just much faster to use weapons than magic spells. But we also have a shortcut in that we can buy spell tomes for many different spells and actually just toss the item in combat for a fixed strength, and we get like the benefits of a level 8 spell without having to spend an hour getting a character up to naturally cast a level 8 version of the spell.
Yeah, some books cast level 8 versions, some cast level 6 versions, I believe, which are not going to be used anyway. But right now, warp and teleports are by far the best spells that you can use in this run, because they're part of the KO/death spells category, which insta-kill anything if it hits. And this fun fact, this fight right here, this boss tanks or absorbs every single type of magic, but is also very, very weak in defense. And every character would just, kill it in 1 or 2 rounds. But there's only one magic that can actually hurt him, and it's Oli, which you do not get until later in the run. Or you don't actually get it, actually, sorry. But later in the game, I'd say. And to level it up, it would be, take too long. So not very useful there either. So now you just got the Eagle Torch from that chest behind the red flame, which is also used to carry the Sunfire, which is located at the base of Cashron Keep. And will be used to destroy the Dreadnought in a little bit.
So yeah, I picked up 3 teleport tomes and 3 warp tomes, and I taught 1 teleport tome specifically to my GDQ character, and I also taught that after I had taught him how to learn life, so that when I go into his magic menu, the default selection is going to be life, since it places them in the order that you learn them. I don't want him casting teleport by mistake and taking me out of a dungeon if I can avoid it, because that wastes a lot of time, and it's especially bad in a marathon. But I will learn warp on Maria/Hotfix, and I will learn teleport on Furion, and then I will learn life on GDQ and life on Bargain, which is Furion and Guy. The equivalents. Those are the only 4 spells I'm planning to learn on my characters. Everything else I will use is either attack on that, or it's a spell that another guest character will have that we'll start with, or I'll just be throwing tomes in combat.
Right now, most of the characters, or actually every single characters you're going to get as extra, do not have any spell outside of, I think, Layla.
Everybody say hi and then bye to the only Chocobo in the game. The first one in the series.
Hi, Chocobo. Bye, Chocobo. I'm a little late. To the party, but yeah.
Also, if you notice there, like I kind of did like a little slide onto the Dreadnought on the very last tile when I dismounted him. If you just hold down and then dismount at the same time, it just kind of slides you over one tile and basically automatically boards the Dreadnought at that point, and this guard got in the way like a butthole. There he goes. Okay, now he moves out of the way. That little guy can get in the way and make things annoying.
So
I think the guard heard you.
That's why this guard can be painful, but if he's nice, that's cool too. He could waste you at least a minute just by standing in the doorway, going up and down.
I believe it was a Japanese runner that came up with the strategy for this fight. Very early on, when I was doing a playthrough on my first playthrough on this game, I kind of identified that the sleep blade was extremely overpowered, so I went out of my way when I was routing this to include it in all my runs. But the only way to pick it up is to fight a very dangerous group of enemies there. And I used to have a strategy where I would focus on the casters in the back and melee everything down little by little, and then I believe the Japanese runners, more people started using the same strategy I was having, but they came up with the additional idea of we're just going to use, we'll pick up the Antarctic wind in the snow cave, and we'll toss that instead, and that will highly weaken the group, and then I can finish them off with melee attacks and save a lot of time. Make sure I didn't back row everyone. I'm not supposed to be attacking with Gordon, I just keep forgetting to change his command.
Yeah, so Gordon has, I'd say, pretty high agility. Was it like 20, maybe 25?
I have no idea. I've never paid attention to this.
Okay, let's say he has 20, okay? 20, 22, something like that. Let's say he has that much. It's pretty good because right now I think this is the character with the highest agility in the group. If you didn't, get stat ups and everything from fights. But it's very useful to have him there, even though he's useless, but then he's useful because he's an extra chance of running away. And by having the highest agility count at that point, you can't really get mad at him for trying his best. Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say picking up items, like he's gonna pick up equipments here in the run that gives agility to whoever has it equipped. And right here, the Thief Gloves gives 10 agility, and I believe every single equipment that gives a stat boost outside of the endgame weapons gives you plus 10, and the in-game weapons, I believe, gives you 99 to most of the stuff. Like the Mazimune, I think, gives you 99 agility. But yeah, you want to stack up the agility stats as much as you can on your characters, so they can act first in an encounter. And in this case, you want them to act first to have a higher chance of running away. But you will not find that many equipments around, and buying them takes time, takes money, and that just wastes time. Just for 10 agility. As you can see here, the mine is pretty deadly if you let it go off.
What do you mean, let it go off? I was trying to punch it. They don't let you do anything. They will do whatever they want to do. But I'm here in the Dreadnought. We're just going to go through this. We have two objectives here. The first one was to go down to the lower floor, and I have to set Sid and Hilda free. And I also picked up the Thief's Gloves that was down there, since that gives bonus agility, and put it on Furion. It's a strategy it's still a holdover from the PSP version, where we were trying to use that to influence Furion's agility level, which supposedly would impact the rate of preemptives and ambushes. It's very, very hard to find actual math, or at least reliable formulas for how things actually work in this game. We know that punching is very, very good, though.
Yeah, in this dungeon / the Dreadnought, most of the enemies that hit you, like the were-rats, will stun you, but others, like the other, what was it called? The stunner, I think.
Stunners can stun you, and the were-rats can poison you. And these were-panthers can poison you, and the bombs can explode on you.
Well, most of I mean they will poison you, but in this they will actually put venom on you, which acts differently from normal poison, which one is green, the other is purple. Purple will stick outside of combat, and the green one will only be in the combat. So after the fight is done, then you're cured. But in these dungeons, I'd say every enemy from now on is only going to cast venom, or actually apply venom to you. So you'll always have to get into your inventory to remove the venom, or running with the animation, the poison animation. Actually, I think it lags your game a little bit and makes it a little bit slower because it always have to get through this one animation, which just flash your character.
All our characters look really sweet right now, because now they all got blind on them. So they've got shades on. Blind is not going to do anything, considering I'm just running away from enemies right now. But if I want to fight a boss later on, it would behoove me to cure that for my characters. But until that point, there's no point in wasting the resources, because if I cure my characters right now, they could just get re-blinded on the very next encounter, and that just wastes time and money for no reason.
So, at least they got glasses now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they look really, really sweet.
They all have cool glasses.
They've been remastered.
I love these spell effects that they use for all these pixel remasters. They all look super detailed.
They all look great, and actually a lot of the effects are actually shared across many of the different games. They all use a very similar engine. So, like, if you see a Thunder spell, it's going to look very, very similar in FF1 Pixel Remaster, FF3 Pixel Remaster, all of them. So if you see what it looks like in one, you can have a good idea what it's going to look like in the others.
Yeah, just like the warp is the same thing as the X Zone in 5. Literally the same animation. But yeah, this room in the Dreadnought is by far the one you really want to save in, because you have to go around the entire room, and I think that takes at least 8, 9, maybe 10 encounters in total. And in those encounters, if you die without saving, well, you have to restart the entire room, which is neat because in this version, every time you enter a door, the game autosaves.
Can you believe that? Gordon actually lived through that? Lived through the Dreadnought. What a guy.
It's because of the bargain.
It's not too late to leave it there. It's not too late to leave him behind, though.
So the other objective here in the Dreadnought was to blow up the Dreadnought. We had to reach the engine room and toss in the Sunfire we picked up from Cashew Keep. And now we're in a little cutscene where we're fleeing from this.
In this time, can we take a moment to appreciate the diagonal movement that they added for all the Pixel remasters?
It's so good. Like the diagonal, you can even like diagonal canoe, you can diagonal airship, you can do everything with diagonal on the overworld, in the dungeons. But it's clear that like they didn't redesign like some of the dungeon maps with that in mind, because some of them are just still extremely awkward to navigate with diagonal movement. There's one in particular in Tropical, is it Deist or Tropical Cave? One of those two dungeons that is, it's coming up soon.
Tropical.
And yeah, I think it's Tropical. And it's just an awful room to navigate with diagonal movement, because almost you keep bumping into corners and walls.
Well, most of the dungeons are like that, but that one is by far the most flagrant.
So Sid picks us up and takes us right back to Altair, just in time to see the King of Finn is not doing too well. He was injured like in the opening cutscene and has been bedridden since the very beginning of the story in this room.
And like every other characters that you meet up, well, he dies.
Oof.
So now you lose Gordon, which is really not that big of a deal. You lose one character that would help you run away, but we're about to get a different character, which is by far more useful than he is, because that character has a ton of agility, and also comes with a piece of equipment that gives you agility, and also has magic to her. So that is some
Bye.
extra damage.
1 second, I forgot to buy. I was going to buy some high potions just in case.
So you remember at the beginning of the run where you got those fire tomes? You will actually use them in the upcoming fight against 8 pirates. You know, just it's not 9 pirates, just like FF1, but those 8 pirates, they don't do a lot of damage. Actually, I think they deal close to 0, maybe 20, and you would rather kill them in as fast as possible with the least amount of attacks going off on you, because that just wastes time. So anything under 4 attacks, 3 and lower is pretty decent RNG for that fight. So anything higher is just a complete waste of time. But
So
yeah,
here we meet Layla, who's a pirate captain who's offering us free passage on her ship. No strings attached. This can only go well.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, this is one thing that we
Oh
didn't
no.
say yet, but everything in this game, like weapons, armors, shields, they all have a magic penalty attached to it. And some of them have actually 0 or 1, 2, maybe 5% magic penalty. But since the character have no armor, we don't have any magic penalty, so we're doing as much damage as we can possibly do on these characters. And this is the reason why every characters are always naked at this point. Not because not because they're going to use magic, but there's no point in buying any armor if you're running from everything and you don't really fight anything, and you abuse the fact that you're going to put every enemies to sleep and curse them. So here he's gonna remove every equipment from Layla, of course, and let her keep the gold airpin, which gives her the 10 agility, and that's with good reason here, because in the upcoming 2 boss fights, he's gonna actually use her to use an item on Maria / Outfix, and Maria is gonna be the one casting or throwing tomes, and with those items, whenever he's going to get them, those items gives a stat boost, a temporary stat boost in the fights that it's used, and it brings the stats, or that stat in particular, up to 99. It maxes out the stats, and in this case, intelligence and spirit, spirit. So it's going to max it to 99, and what that does is spirit will help white magic hit more often, and in this case use teleport to hit every enemy that you're going to cast it on. And the other one is Sage's Wisdom, and that will bring his intelligence to 99, which will in fact make it so Warp has a higher chance of hitting the enemies when it's used. But that's not going to be for another 5 minutes or so. Right now he's just picking up he made his way to the Dazed Island, which is where the dragoons / wyverns lives. And well, to talk to them, I think you require that pendant. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a wyvern. There's one remaining wyvern that is in Castle Deast, and unless you have the pendant, you have no ability to understand his speech. So I have to go into Deast Cavern, into a separate section where that pendant is located on a Dragoon's helm, pick that up, and then get out of there. You'll notice that when I'm using teleport to get into and out of locations pretty quickly, mostly because that saves a lot of time backtracking. But one downside of using teleport in FF2 is if you use it outside of combat like this, it actually has a penalty of essentially putting your character in at danger levels of HP. So every time I use it like that, I have to essentially go back into the menu and heal up, just in case, because I don't want my characters to die needlessly.
Yeah, so this is where you're
Warp
going to pick up
functions
those
very
items.
similarly.
Hmm?
Warp functions pretty similarly, but it will only take you back one floor instead of taking you out of the whole dungeon. But does not have a penalty associated with it for using it like that. Just teleport.
Yeah, it take longer to actually, if you want to get out of the dungeon using warp, it takes longer, but it's probably better to just heal up in that case. So he's gonna make his way back to Dace Cave, and which is where he's gonna make his way all the way at the bottom. Now that he has the egg from that wyvern, he's gonna go down to the spring and toss the egg in there. But first, he's gonna have to fight against the RNG of this cave, which is not the worst, but in this one, getting ambushed by the enemies called the Il Gigas can be deadly here, because if you fail to escape, they can probably kill you in one hit when they want. Sometimes they don't. Or you can get encounters with the yellow souls here, and if you get ambushed by 5 or 6 of them, getting through their animations it takes a while, because they cast and it's super slow.
So I have a confession here. This is probably my most hated dungeon in the game from the PSP version, but due to the changes with the enemy encounters being runnable here in this version, this is now my favorite dungeon in the game. In this version of it.
Yeah, in the PSP version, just to give an example, in not the final floor, but the one before the final floor, it has a 33% chance to give you a pack of yellow souls, which is unrunnable in that version, and it has another 33% chance of giving you revenants, which is, I think, the only encounters in that room that you can actually run away from. And you can get up to 2 encounters there, and most of the time, if you get revenants, you're really happy. But if you get yellow souls, it's just annoying. Which is why in this game, if it has a soft reset and it has the unrunnables, it wouldn't be that bad. But not having a soft reset makes it a little bit worse, in my opinion.
I really just enjoy the fact that when you were talking about having the yellow souls, and you say, like in this, you have the thing about yellow souls that pop up as soon as you say it, the yellow souls pop up, and then you say, usually with the yellow souls, you can't run,
anything.
and then yeah.
You can will anything you want into existence in this game, and it will show up and ruin your day.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's making his way here to grab another set of, Sage Spirit and Sage Wisdom and Saint Spirit, and he has 2 of each, which will make at least 4 encounters super easy. If spoilers alert, you can actually get ambushed by boss fights, and let me tell you, it's not fun.
This might be a game over. Yep, that's a game over. That's the first one. That was inevitable, though.
As I was saying, the Il Gigas, if they wanted to put you to the ground, there we go.
That gives us a great time to talk about another really nice quality of life feature. So there's a lot of... You can quick save anywhere in this version of the game, and every time you transition between floors or new locations, there is it takes an autosave for you. So going through this is nowhere near the slog that it is in other versions of the game. I have to turn my continue auto battle back on. The first time that I die or reload a save like that, it gets turned off for some reason. Subsequent times it does that, doesn't do that. I don't know why that is. Seems like a very weird quirk of the game.
Alright, so is that room that I was talking about, is this one, the B4 room? This is where you had a high chance of getting yellow souls. In this version, I think the encounter rates were tweaked a little bit, not to make it as obnoxious as they were.
This would be a good time for the break after this upcoming boss fight here. Just to let the host and everybody know. So I'll finish the boss fight, I'll teleport out, and then we'll take a break from there.
Right, so he's gonna fight the first boss fight of two in this section, not this section, but the I guess the overall section of the run. He's gonna fight chimeras, and chimeras are really annoying. If they ambush you, they will most likely kill you. So yeah, you can get ambushed, and it's really annoying. But in this one, he's gonna use Layla to use the Sage Wisdom on Maria / Hotfix, and hopefully Layla goes first, which happens at least 85% of the time. And there you go. As long as Maria is able to, cast her warp and take out at least 3 of them, well, you want to see 4 gone. But at this point, the fight is pretty much over. Since as long as Furion hits Curse or Sleep, the boss fight is just a push over at this point.
Okay, I have to drop the wing there, and then I'm going to take the teleport out here. We'll take a quick break.
All right, I think once it happens, we'll stop. Put a pause here. Just a real quick reiteration that these hotfix shows, of course, are brought to you by viewers like you. If you'd like to have ad-free viewing, you can always consider using your Prime Gaming account to support the weekly hotfix shows and content. If you'd like to support the channel in other ways, of course, consider subbing to the channel or even sharing our shows on social media. And of course, do not forget, Awesome Games Done Quick 2022 online will be starting January 9th. You can visit gamesdonequick.com for more information and detailed dates on the event. Also, don't forget, after our show, of course, Speedruns from the Crypt. For more information on what's happening to Speedruns from the Crypt, just use the !schedule command in chat. We're going to take a small break for everyone to kind of get up, make sure we're properly hydrating, stretching, using the restroom, everything else along those lines. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Final Fantasy II Pixel Edition. Welcome back to the Bargain Bin, a show about speedrunning games that don't break your bank. I'm Midnight Vesper, your host, slowly commenting about how beautiful this music is. But first, we get into a couple extra announcements. Of course, if you've missed out on anything prior to this or any other GDQ hotfix show, you can check out the archive of our past runs and shows at youtube.com/GameZoneQuick. While you're there, hi YouTube, feel free to join us over on twitch.tv/GameZoneQuick. Check out our live shows starting most nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. And while you're there, Hotfix is funded in part thanks to your subscriptions and bits. Please consider subbing to support our future broadcast. And of course, don't forget, the GDQ Sum of Best segments just now launched on our YouTube. It's a highlight channel with regular videos like our main channel, but with small highlight reels for all of our main events and hotfix shows. Use !highlights in chat to find out about more. And of course, Awesome Games Done Quick 2022 is going to be starting January 9th. You can visit gamesdonequick.com for more information and detailed dates on the event. Without further ado, let's continue on this beautiful journey of Final Fantasy II, the Pixel Remaster Edition with Porsyth and Deln. Take it away.
Oh, I just want to say, hi, I'm Porsyth. For anyone that just joined us, and Deln's my commentator, I do want to just say to the tech crew that changing the stream display to say the Bargain Layla, I'm all for that.
Every time there's been a companion that's been going through, I've been slowly changing it to that companion.
Well, thank you for that. I just noticed it myself. I'm going to start back up in 3, 2, 1, go.
Hey, welcome back to FF2. Now that after beating the chimeras and leaving the cave, now he's going to try to make his way to Tropical Island, which is that tiny little island you see on the map that is in the middle of nowhere. And at this point, you wouldn't really know what to do, because right now what you have to do is you have to go to Dace Island to seek out the help of the dragons and the wyverns. But after that, it's pretty much impossible to know unless you go back to, let's say, Altair again and get some information here and there. But at this point, he's gonna go to Tropical Island, which is not the intended route from a new player perspective, and he's gonna go there to grab an item called the Black Mask, which is going to be used later into the run, which is not going to be used right now. It's the best time to get it right now too, since it's right next to where he is. But yeah, like he was saying, this cave with diagonal movement is really annoying because, as you can see, there's not a lot of room for diagonal movements. This also is.
I didn't change Gordon's row back. I mean to switch back. I generally want to keep characters in the back row because they will take less damage from the random encounters. I do occasionally forget that, and I want to front row them for the fights so that they do the maximum amount of damage if I need to use them to make physical attacks. But I've just made a couple of minor mistakes since we resumed this. In this section of the game, you can do dungeons in. There's essentially 2 destinations you could do in either order. We chose to do Deist Castle first, and then Tropical Island after. You kind of have to do both of them, and this is the most convenient time to do both. In the PSP version, I'm actually used to going to the Tropical Island here first, but we've changed the routing in the Pixel Remaster because of the ability to pick up the Sage's Wisdom and what is it? The Sage's Wisdom and the Saint's Spirits items by going in the other order. And this is the room I was talking about earlier. That is the single worst room in the game in terms of using diagonal movement. You just keep bumping into walls no matter which way you go, and you have to keep changing your commands to this room. It's a pain to navigate.
Also, this is probably the dungeon with the most enemies that can actually poison you / venom you. This is all the moose, jelly, toads. You know, everything almost in this dungeon will venom you or put venom on you. So every time you get hit, you always have to go back into your inventory menu, and it's just really annoying. But
yeah, the statuses in this game are very annoying, and it's a weird system in FF2 that was never used in any other version. Many of the statuses have 2 different versions, one that wears off after combat and one that does not. And clearing them typically takes a character with one of 2 different spells. There's one called Basuna, which can be used to remove status effects in combat. And there's another one called Isuna, which most people are probably more familiar with, which removes the out-of-combat versions of the status effects. But there's like a poison version, there's a venom version. I'm trying to think what are the other ones. There's a fog and a silence, I think. Or I can't remember if there's that one. There's multiple variations of different statuses.
yeah, the amnesia as well.
Oh, no, that's what I want. Let's heal up before this fight. Yeah. Everybody got a front row Gordon, or Guy in this case.
Yeah, so this is the Big Horn fight. Big Horn's like the Chimeras fight starts with 4 enemies in this version, and this one has, I believe, 1100 HP, and it's also the enemy that hits really hard if you don't teleport them in time. But
that is not great, but we'll deal with it.
So
you want to hit all 4. I was hoping to hit all 4 with that, using that Saint Spirit teleport combo with Maria, because these guys hurt a lot.
Yeah, but at this point the fight is pretty much won. So
it's very hard to control this fight if there's 4 enemies, or 3 or 4 enemies. That's not ideal, but
right, I might have talked a little bit too quickly here.
We can still deal with this. It's we're just gonna have to get a little bit lucky here.
So yeah, as you can see, now that the top one is cursed, his damage dropped significantly compared to the other one. And yeah, they have a lot of HP, but soon the first one is dead. The second one is cursed, so his damage is down to almost nothing.
I'm gonna try to get Bargain back up because he does the most damage here.
Yeah, this fight is a little bit sketchy right now, but it's not so bad.
So long as Virion hits his attacks with the Sleep Sword and the Curse Sword here, I can control this fight pretty reliably. But Furion has a nasty habit of missing with a couple of his attacks, which
Yeah.
really slows things down.
It doesn't tell you, but actually, I think it does tell you when you equip them. But the Sleep Blade and the Ancient Sword, they both have 30% accuracy. So it doesn't stack either, because in the menu, when you equip both of them, it gives you a complete number. Your accuracy is a complete number of both sword equipped, but each of them don't actually use that number. Like, let's say an example, like 55. It doesn't actually have 55% chance of hitting. It still has 30% chance of hitting.
I didn't heal him. Okay, forgot to heal him for some reason. Let's make sure he's not at critical HP.
But the fight that matters the most here, where Furion / GQ has to actually hit, is coming up very soon, because that fight can go wrong real quick if the boss is not put to sleep.
Leave Margaret alone. He's dead. Oh, no, he got away. He got away.
Ooh.
Good save.
Yeah.
So-
Sorry, go
Go
for it.
ahead. I'll say, when you run this game, I know for when I run RPGs, I have a whole little note section about what I need to do. Do you have notes, and do those notes contain like backup strats for if an enemy doesn't necessarily go the same route that you needed it to be?
I used to have a line in my notes that said, in big letters, pray that you don't die, because there's no real backup strat to any of this. In most of the fights, you just want to hit them with your Sleep Blade and Curse Sword and then melee them. And if it doesn't go your way, well, you just try to beat them as much as you can without dying. But you can heal your characters. You can, defend, which probably doesn't really do anything. But you just try to beat the fight as much as you can. If you die, and you just reset the fight.
Fight is for you, Wells. I hate this fight so much.
Yeah,
Please die.
This fight is really the worst fight, I'd say, in this entire run, because right now he's gonna use the teleport strat, and if it doesn't actually hit, like right now, Furion failed both of his hits.
Thank
Oh,
God.
there we go. Yeah, no, this fight can go really wrong, and missing them, Lamia Queen has a melee attack, and her melee attack will put anybody hit to sleep, and she also has this nasty attack that charms your characters, and if your characters are charmed, well, you're gonna get a beatdown from your own party.
Absolutely hate that fight because it goes so bad so often.
Yeah, and
I just used the teleport strategy. It worked on the first try there, but I've had it not work before, and I've also have a history of that fight with the. I did this for RPG Limit Break years ago, and you have to throw a lot of teleport stones for that run, and it took me like 10 tries to get to land one, and it hurt so much and killed the pace so bad.
Yeah, so you also want to, take a look at what the Lamia Queen actually drops, because she can drop a couple of things, but the thing that you want is the guild drop, which is 15,000. And he did not get it. He actually got the I believe the armor piece that you can drop, which sells for a fraction of that 15k.
I think I'm okay because I got some Berserk tomes, probably from the Sleep Blade fight earlier, so that can help me make up the difference in the gold. But actually, oh no, I wanted to actually throw the hairpin back on Furion now that Layla's gone.
Yeah, and our favorite party member, Gordon, is back in action, which you'll see for a whole, 5 minutes?
Yeah, he's not going to last long. There's a question in chat asking about the world record. We have the estimate for this run is 2 hours and 35 minutes, but the world record until about 4 hours ago was, I believe, a 2:18:28. And then I was doing a practice run about 2 hours before this, and I managed to actually beat that with a 2:17:08. So that is, I believe, the current world record, although unless there's a secret Japanese runner that has not submitted their time or video at this point. They can be very sneaky. wish I had better access to Nico video to watch some Japanese runners for this, because there's been a lot of different strategies that people have been using. A lot of them didn't rely on the teleport and warp strats. They've decided to find more consistent strategies, so they were trying to attack and get like defenses up, like using Blink for their characters, and then using the Sage's Wisdom and trying to use Thunder with Layla to take down some of those, like the Bighorns and Chimeras fight. They have been the biggest roadblocks in terms of routing. I didn't front row everyone, did I? No, I did not. Let me do that after this round. I'm just going to run this. It's fine.
Yeah, most of the strats that were ultimately used came from those Japanese runners.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting collaboration, watching them do it, and then trying things yourself, and then seeing what happens. So this is kind of a route that I personally use that picks up an extra Saint's Spirit and Sage's Wisdom by dropping down to a lower level in Deast Cavern, so that I can use it on more boss fights to try to speed them up. Deln, his world record before this, only picked up one set of them and only used them for a couple fights. Actually, I don't want to do that. I forgot to front row before that fight. Usually I'm going to back row after that, but since I forgot to front row in the first place, I don't have to do that.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say now that getting a second set of the Saint Spirit and Sage Wisdom is ultimately faster with the time save that you save on certain boss fights.
And some of them can take quite a while to melee. I mean, you can control the fights just fine with the Sleep Blade and Curse Blade, so long as Furion can reliably land his attacks. It doesn't necessarily make them very fast, but it does make them consistent. But the problem is Furion has a chance to miss with his attacks, and as soon as he misses, things can start to get really, really hairy.
Also, say bye to Gordon. Gordon will leave for good now.
Bye, Gordon.
Die. He's not gonna die, unlike, all the other characters that you had at some point.
Yeah, Gordon's gonna make it through this story. Lucky for him. Many others are not so lucky.
Yeah, this room used to be a really, really bad room because you get 3 encounters in here, and some of those enemies can charm you on hit, and ultimately it would just wipe your party since you only have 3. Well, talking about that party.
Oh boy, here we go. Oh, here we go. Oh boy.
Oh.
This is why you quick save.
As I was saying.
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Well, it's better to see it now than see it later, but
we gotta flip the sign like days without a reset down to 0 again. No.
Yeah, this room is really bad, but as long as you don't get the enemies that can charm you, it's not really a big problem.
Let's move that. Move that up. Move that up. I'm just moving these closer to where they'll probably be used in my inventory.
Yeah, so
that's not good.
It's not good.
That's probably gonna be.
So Osmos.
No, actually, I have a counter, so I'm okay.
Yeah, Osmos here took all of his MP, so now you cannot use life, you cannot use teleport, and there's I believe two more times he's going to use teleport to the run, and now he doesn't have any MP, but I believe he's going to have a backup set for that anyway.
I picked up a cottage earlier, which I can use. I'll do that.
For that, yeah.
Soon enough. Oops, wrong button.
Getting the cottage or buying buying 1 or 2 ether after Lime McQueen can be used as backup, but it really depends. I prefer the ether way because you don't have to wait for the animation of sleeping, which can take a little bit of time.
Yeah, this game can be very inconsiderate at times. So yeah, Osmos is not ideal. I mean, I don't need to use magic in the immediate sense right now, so I can use it. I can use a cottage that I did pick up in Deast to restore that. But generally speaking, I don't want to be running around with 0 MP, because that, prevents me from rezzing my characters or teleporting out.
So the entire story now, going to Altair the first time where we fought the Lamia Queen, we fought a fake Ilda, and the real Ilda was still being held hostage in the arena, and was auctioned as the winning prize, or not auctioned, but she was going to be given as a winning prize to the winner. And since we won, well, that was definitely a trap, because you got captured. But you saved her. You saved the day. Gordon is gone. Everybody's happy. Now you're on your way to take back Finn Castle, and you meet Layla on the way. By far the best character, the best side character, since she has a spell and could be used to, used for the Sleep Blade and Ancient Sword, but probably not the best character for that. Her sword level is 5, so there's always a way to use that if you have to.
Address a quick question in chat that was asking about if there's a console version of that. There is not currently a console version of this. These Pixel Remaster games, FF1 through FF5, are available on PC, and they are also available on Android and iOS at this time. I believe FF1 and FF2 are $12 American, and I believe FF3 through 6 are all $18 each, so they are all technically under the $20 threshold for this show, and any one of them could be on the show in the future. There's a bundle that contains all 6 games that you can pick up. It is periodically on sale. I believe FF5 is on sale, having recently just been released within the last 2 weeks.
All right,
FF6 is not yet available.
We're just gonna get on pace for the story here. By beating Godos being the general in Finn Castle, that's olding Finn Castle, you liberate the entire place, and with that, go on with the next segment, where this is where you would hunt for the 2 masks in the game, if you were actually here. And if you didn't pick up the black mask before, they would actually put you on the way to go there. But since we already know that it's there, they picked it up first. So now we only have the white mask to get, and the white mask is located at the very bottom of Finn Castle, which is where he's heading right now. And most of those floors are really, really, really simple to get through, because the enemies don't really do a lot of damage, first of all, and none of them have any really nasty effect that they can hit you with. Maybe except the parasite that can drain your MP on hit.
Yeah, but the parasites, can do that, and the Brains and Changers have some moves like they can cast that spell swap that can, if I'm really, really lucky, one of them might cast it on me and actually gift me back some MP. I don't technically need it right now, but it would be a really nice gesture.
Well, here's hoping for that.
Are we gonna see the awesome group of green souls here? The only enemy, I guess, the only enemy in this game that actually helps you by healing you instead of attacking you.
Yeah, killing you with kindness. They especially kill you in the PSP version. Like, because, oh, there they are.
Hey, there.
Look at that.
Oh, they're
There they go. Look at these guys go.
It's like we were talking about earlier.
It's
you
Christmas.
talk about it.
Every time I say something about this game, it actually happens, I feel like.
I told you can will things into it by just talking about them. And look at that, they put my party back to full HP.
Yeah, now you just need a parasite.
I just an MP,
You just have a brain switch MP. At this point, it's probably going to be impossible for that to happen, because the groups on this floor are always stalagmites and green souls. So you'll never see the other groups anymore, but it's okay.
Someone in the chat, quick talk about the world record. Let's talk that into existence.
I have a good feeling about this run that we're gonna at least see Iron Giant.
I would love to see that guy. I have not seen him recently. Well, he keeps coming and going when I'm doing practice runs. I had a long stretch where I kept seeing him, and then I didn't see him for a while. And recently, I haven't been seeing him.
All right, now that we got both Mask, he's gonna make his way to the land of Visidia, which you need the mask to unlock the statues that blocks your way, and you cannot actually get him moving if the white mask is not set in place on the statue in Visidia in the first place. So
I'm
yeah,
gonna take a quick save.
Yeah, the encounters here ramp up really, really quickly in terms of difficulty, because every single enemy here will kill you in one shot, or not real one shot, but they're close to one shot.
They're capable of just ruining your day. They can just confuse you. They can put some nasty statuses on you. They can just punch you.
Yeah. So we're gonna, if we're lucky, we're gonna see a group of green birds make their appearance, give you a really nice hug that leaves you petrified, and hell, they're gonna bless your run. I feel like, yeah, it would be nice to actually see them appear at some point.
So just to quickly recap the story, I believe it was Minwu who was, or it might have been Ricard or Minwu who was tasked with going to the crystal or the Tower of the Magi to learn the Ultima spell, but that obviously they've been derailed in their plans and what happens. So I have to pick up the slack for them and go over there myself. To enter the Tower of the Magi, I have to pick up 2 key items that will allow me to enter it, and then I have to pick up a crystal rod at the end of it, and that will let me get into the Tower of the Magi. So I need the 2 masks to enter this cave of Mysidia, which is where the crystal rod is located. So I just have to slog through this dungeon here, running away from everything. I'm going to pick 1 detour and pick up 1 item for Furion with additional agility gear. Right here. And then I'm going to just pray from this point on that I don't get killed by random encounters, which is very common here.
Yeah, and he also picked up the Black Garb here. Black Garb gives the highest amount of defense in the game at 40, and also gives you 10 agility, which makes it more better. Does not prevent ambushes, though.
Boy, they're just wailing on Parkin over there.
I did see a really good question. So that's in chat was that the random battles in here are very frequent. In terms of the original, the PSP, the Game Boy, were they always as frequent as they are here, or did they up the enemy encounter for this version?
Probably up the encounter twice as much, because usually you don't get encounters that often. You probably in this room that he was in just there, he gets, if you play PSP version, you most likely get 1, maybe 2 encounters at most. But in this version, you get up to like 4, sometimes 5 if you're really unlucky.
Oh, it's another thing about like the other versions, like specifically the GBA and PSP versions, is there is a step count in that version where, I mean, you can very predictably, if you understand like the underlying mechanics of how it calculates when it gives encounters, you can predict and plan encounters to happen in certain locations. But that has been taken out of this version of the game. So now I'm essentially getting an encounter roughly every 15 to 16 steps, or 15 to 20 steps. It's within a range. It's not very predictable. The only thing that we've noticed is if you happen to get an encounter, or if you happen to transition on a tile where you would probably get an encounter, you can get like what seems like an extended run without getting an encounter. So what we theorize at this point is that if you happen to just transition on a step that would give you an encounter, it'll skip that encounter and reset the number back to 15 to 20 or whatever. So it's very, very difficult to plan at this point, and it pretty reliably gives you an encounter somewhere every 15 to 20 steps otherwise. But I mean, I'm used to running a step route from PSP where I would know exactly which tile I would get encounters on, and I would essentially quick save before every encounter before that, because there were a lot more unrunnable encounters. changed many encounters that were unrunnable from previous versions to be runnable in this version. So there's only a handful towards the end of the game that are unrunnable at this point. So this is by far probably the friendliest version for new runners of FF2.
Yeah, and like you said at the beginning of the run, some walls have holes in them, shortcuts, and thankfully they added every single shortcuts from the NES version, which for some reason some of them were cut from the PSP version.
They
But
cut
in
it from all other remakes.
Yeah.
They never, like that shortcut on the previous floor. There's 2 shortcuts there that were taken out of every version. After it was in the original Famicom version, it was taken out. Oh, that's not good. That is not good. Please run away, Fury. Please run away, GDQ. You can do it. Oh, that's not gonna be good either. Oh, it's actually splitting the damage though, because there's still 4 guys.
technically they're still alive.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the Pixel Remaster. They have a very unusual quirk with petrified characters, where petrified characters will still gain experience and levels, and can actually tank hits as if they could be targeted. And it's a incredibly powerful strat, especially in the FF1 Pixel Remaster, and many of the other ones as well. It doesn't quite come into play as much in FF2, but it is still... That was a very fortunate runaway at that point. I'm extremely used to dying when something like that happens, when all but one character dies, because usually that means that the one remaining character is going to get targeted and killed as well. And Varian has proven me wrong today.
That almost happened there.
Oh, he's out of mana, though. Because I never did my...
Yeah. So using the ether here to safely get MP back. Hopefully he doesn't get osmosed again.
Yeah, I should probably quick save, just in case. This is the last floor of this dungeon here.
So you probably got at least 3 encounters left, I'd say.
Should be one here. There's at least one more after this. There might be 2.
Yeah, the flying rays are not the worst encounter. They don't really do anything.
These Marlboro, though.
But in this case, the Marlboros are completely different stories. Because, well, they stun you, and whoop, this is definitely not good.
Oh.
Yeah, this fight's over.
So, chat, how you doing today? We can always, start a wonderful discussion about everybody's favorite Final Fantasy game. Or something like that. Okay.
That's what we were talking about on the break.
Oh, I didn't save there? Dang. Oh well. Just got to repeat from my last quick save.
And so I have a better question though. What is your favorite enemy from this game?
I could have saved there. I could have quick saved probably a little bit before that one. Because I don't want to fight. Why do I want to fight an announcer? Why not? Let's bring the chaos. Let's bring the RNG. Let's go. For the record, for anyone that is asking about me and my favorite Final Fantasy, it is 9. My favorite one that I replayed the most often is 5. And I am extremely happy with the FF5 Pixel Remaster that just came out.
I've been playing through it, and I've noticed my favorite bug or interesting scenario about it is that when you're zombified, and if you have the healing rod, if the person who is a zombie has the healing rod and you attack a party member, it gets into like a little 5-minute glitch where the game just won't do anything, and you get into the animation of the person being hit over and over and over again.
Those are my personal favorites here.
Oh god.
Oh boy. Here. Well, we got more time to talk about your favorite FFs right there.
Hey, I was talking about those birds earlier. A very nice entrance from them. But
look at this crew here.
Yeah, when I said the difficulty is ramping up, now you can see why, because everything is out to get you, and it's really more obvious in this section. Oh boy,
this is the danger of 100% status effects.
Yeah, they have a petrify effect on their hits, and well,
Yeah, they don't mess around.
Oh,
No.
wow.
This is why I wasn't optimistic about about the world record. Because this is the kind of stuff that happens when you're trying to go for a world record. Jerk birds are going to be jerk birds.
Hey, you're 5 minutes ahead. Well, you haven't met those birds before, so
Have you considered being 5 minutes behind?
yes,
Yeah.
multiple times actually.
Hmm. Okay. So yeah, this is a pretty common occurrence in these runs, and especially in the very late dungeons. This is really nasty. I don't even need to rest her. I'm not even gonna bother. She can be Bargain Layla to the end.
Yeah, the reason why he's not gonna revive her is because Layla is gonna be leaving the party in a very short moment. And now making your way to the Mysidian Tower, but instead you get pulled into a whirlpool, which is not actually a whirlpool, but was it a Leviathan? What is it called? Leviathan?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So you're getting pulled in the Leviathan, where you lose one party member and you get introduced to damage tiles, which is acid in this case. And the way they made it work in this game is that every encounters that you would get onto the acid, you do not actually get it. You will get it one step after. So it stores your encounter and it gives it to you right as you leave the acid. So it's super easy to predict where you get the encounter. And at this point, it'd be really easy to, I guess, route a step route, but it's really inconsistent. If there was a set number of step between encounters, it'd be really easy to route encounters at this point and save some time with that. The enemies in this dungeons are not really
They're not
too
super dangerous
difficult.
unless they ambush you. Then they just become a real pain, or they can be.
Yeah, and you also meet Rickard, the Dragoon, which is actually very, 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 very strong.
Yeah, he is not Bargain Rickard like many of the other characters. He's actually pretty useful.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put the gear that I picked up on Gordon. I'm actually gonna res Gordon. That's a novel idea.
The best part about Rickard here is Rickard starts at rank 8 on swords, and if you actually at some point you're going to get a sword called Blood Sword that is going to be really useful. But during the upcoming boss fights, not this one, but the boss fights in the tower, they have a chance to drop swords that are called Flame Swords or Ice Brand, and those are really, really good. And since Rickard is rank 8, his damage would ramp up pretty significantly from those.
And we
So
just
right
have to
now,
fight through this roundworm fight here. Now that we have a strong melee attacker, this is actually not a very long fight. I still just want to try to stun lock him and curse him with Furion, aka GDQ, so he gets as few attacks as possible. I don't think do that there.
Roundworm is actually weak to fire, so having the fire spear is actually really nice.
I would be all in favor of changing it on stream to say the luxury Ricard, because he actually is a pretty sweet character in this one.
Oh yes, Mysidian Tower now. Mysidian Tower is
Enjoy the music.
yeah, it's a pretty long dungeon, but it's also the one with the most useful.
I'm actually I'm gonna use my cottage actually.
Yeah,
I keep
it's the
forgetting
one.
to do that.
It's the one with the most shortcuts, I'd say, outside of Pandemonium. But here, there's going to be a lot of holes in the walls, and some of them I'll try skips floors for you by just putting you right next to a staircase. Like this one. This one is a very small one. Saves you like maybe one potential encounter.
Saves you like all of 2 steps probably. But a shortcut's a shortcut, so I'm not going to complain. There's actually a shortcut in the passage above me, but it takes more.
Actually, I think both of those routes are the same amount of steps. It's just down to preference at this point. Trying to show off some shortcuts that doesn't actually save you any time.
Oh, you're going to see some... If there's a bunch of people out there that were casually playing too, you're about to really hate me for some of the shortcuts I'm going to show you that are coming up on some of the near floors.
Here, the lava works the same way as the acid from the last dungeon, except that this one does not doesn't store your encounters. It actually skips it. Since you saw while he left the lava, it didn't actually give him an encounter until like a few steps after. And here we're gonna fight. We're gonna have a series of boss fights. The Gigas, the elemental Gigas. This one is the fire one. The fire one is not the scariest one. It has a 10% chance of dropping a fire sword, which would make the ice Gigas, which is just after, a really easy fight. So hopefully you actually get it. And you didn't. Alright.
Okay, so this shortcut right here, I apologize to everyone who had to go the long way on this floor. You go up 3 steps from the staircase there, and that completely cuts out the entire floor.
Yeah, same thing for this one here. You can just go through the wall on the right. Oh, also, another damage floor here, damage tiles, which are ice shards on the floor. This one doesn't actually skip encounters. It actually stores your encounter, like the acid. So it's really inconsistent with the lava. Here you're gonna fight the ice Gigas. If you had the fire sword drop, Rickard would have a double fire weapons, but it really is not the worst thing. Rickard is still gonna hit like a truck. This Gigas, I believe, has 2,000 HP.
Yep, that is correct. He's got 2,000 here.
Well, had, I think is the key word. Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of melts.
Yeah, so he's gonna put everybody in the back row after every encounter, of course, because
Oh, except I forgot to change my counts here, and that could be a really...
Uh-oh. Well,
let's see what happens here. Let's see if it's a party.
Probably a party.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait. Oh, yeah.
Womp womp. That's why you don't forget to change your commands.
Sorry, though. The next Gigas fight is probably the one that takes the most time because the boss has 2,500 HP, but also has an insane amount of defense. And if Furion doesn't actually hit, or GQ in this case, doesn't hit the Ancient Sword and gives the curse, well, you're in for a really rough time. Because the boss can and probably will one-shot anybody, maybe except Rickard, but you will definitely make your day a living hell. So this is where the Ice Brand or the Flame Sword would be pretty useful, because in the upcoming fight with the Emperor, there's this one, not upcoming, but right now, but in a little bit, there's this one enemy that is super weak to fire, and having the Fire Sword just makes it a joke and can potentially let you one cycle him on the first round.
I'm realizing now that I have a world record, these splits really suck to run against.
I wonder why.
All of a sudden, I'm way more in the red than I'm used to being at this point.
So we just got an ambush, and oh, you're not using the
No, because I used it. I used the teleport strat on Lamia
Lamia
Queen
Queen?
instead.
Oh, okay. Wait, you didn't have a second one?
I do. What I've been doing recently is I
Oh, yeah,
switch.
yeah.
I usually do use warp.
Yeah,
I've been
you're
doing warp on her, and I've been having a lot of problems using warp. So I switched to using teleport, and then I tried warp on the Emperor fight later on instead.
Yeah, I forgot that you actually used it on the Emperor. But you know, before it would have been almost better to use it in the Thunder Gygas because its defense / HP pool is higher than the Lamia Queen. But using it on the Lamia Queen makes the fight a lot safer if you actually hit it. But the only downside I think is the Lamia Queen is a much higher magic resistance or magic a chance to dodge that teleport. We're coming up on the final 2 floors of the Messina Tower. Now it's all about not getting destroyed by whatever enemy
We're
is.
done with we're done with the boss fights here. Now it's just a race to get to Minwu at the top of the tower. Again, shout outs to the tech crew for changing that to the luxury Ricard. It does look amazing. I love it. I've been able to run this for a couple of in-person events before, and I've run it actually numerous times for online events, and when people are having fun with it, because I had a really, really rough time when I ran this for RPG Limit Break in 2019, and they changed the estimate to say Lamia Queen.
All I can say is right now,
it helps so much with your mentality when people are helping you out like that, though.
all I can say right now is Bargain is really not having a nice day. Still kissing the floor.
Yeah, Bargain is actually taking a lot of hits in this run, more so than I'm used to him having. But usually somebody is getting smacked around quite a lot, and it tends to be Maria more often than not, because she starts with a lower HP total, and generally speaking, she will have a lower total than other characters on most runs, just due to the stat gains for characters.
I hope you didn't get attached to Minhu because Minhu is about to leave this life.
No,
No.
no, I didn't agree to that. That was a sweet Hadoken, though.
All right,
I was gonna call it a Kamehameha.
just buy the DLC if you want to see Minhu back.
I want to buy it. Where's my money?
Oh, you want to see Minhu back? Just buy a different version. So far, you're gonna wait till the DLC. I don't think they're gonna release them if they ever plan to release them. Also, here you see all those gray orbs around the room. All of those orbs, whenever you take them, they give you +10 to every stat, or they give you to one stat. But since there's 4, it's all stats pretty much.
Yeah, they changed it in this version to actually give the bonus to all the characters. In other versions, it gives it to a random singular character. So it's actually more valuable in this one, but it's still not really worth the time investment.
Yeah, because
in our opinions,
there's no real way to prevent getting ambushed. Because in the other versions, the ambush rate / preemptive rate was based on Fairy-on agility, but in this version, it's a mystery at this point.
I wanted to make sure I got Cyclone. I couldn't hear the visual cue that I got it, so I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, so he picks up Cyclone here, and this used to be a really bad segment because when the game released, this game had a lot of bugs, right? But the worst thing was the soft locks, and this one right here is one place that me in particular would get a soft lock every time for no reason, and there was easy way to tell if your game was going to be soft lock because you would lose sound at a random moment, and it could be from any point in the game. You could lose sound on casting a spell at some point, and your game would soft lock here.
Oh yeah, actually, I forgot about that. So yeah, I mean, and this has only been out for just a little under 4 months now, and when it came out, it was a little buggy. There's been a couple bugs in all of the Pixel remasters. They've had some updates that have fixed some issues. There were a couple of stability issues with this game when it was first released. So yeah, if it was possible for like the music to cut out at a certain point, and that typically indicated that your game would be getting ready to kind of soft lock in the near future. This was a very, very common spot for it to soft lock because I think right around the 2 hour mark of the run, when we were putting up slower times, I think that just seemed to be about where the performance would degrade for some reason. But ever since the most recent update they've had, it's been stable as a rock for me, and a lot of the issues that I've had with performance slowdowns have gone away. I've not seen any real soft locks in a while.
So here, having the cyclone keywords and talking to Paul, he gives you access to his secret stash, which has some of those really insane weapons, such as the blood sword and some armors like the gold cuirass or another black garb and thief gloves that you give to Maria in this case. And this actually helps a lot because some of the encounters here, you really want to leave that from them as quick as possible because they're really deadly. Like the wizards that you just saw can cast death spell on you. And I'm not saying that because poor sight actually got it happening one time in this run, just leaving Finn and just getting
Left here, I got that
ambushed.
save encounter that I just saw there, and then one of the caster enemies decided to cast death and hit all 4 of my characters in the same cast.
Jeez.
And I just laughed, honestly, because I mean, when you've been running these games as long as I have, you're sort of looking for interesting and exciting ways to die and to really run. You can't help but laugh at the funny things like that happens. And yes, Chad has picked up that we've picked up the blood sword from that little secret room. That is the key to the end game fights, especially. It's the single most overpowered in this weapon in this run right now.
We might not see it, but this is the first dungeon where you will see the first group of unescapable encounters, and it's
Why did
weird.
you have to say that?
Oh, okay,
don't do that. Please don't do that. I mean, they're runnable, right? Right?
Yeah, I mean, if you want, I guess you can try.
Please?
Yeah, so there's an enemy called the Royal Guards, and there's a particular group or number of those that you cannot run away from, and that's the group of 2. If you see 2 of them by themselves, the encounter is unrunnable, and if you get 4 of them, you can actually run away from them, which, don't ask me why, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, there's no real logic to what you can and cannot run from in this game.
Yeah, so this is the Emperor Gauntlet, which is a series of 3 fights, and the first 2 are going to be 2 Royal Guards, and another one is going to be 3 Royal Guards, and they hit decently hard if you let them hit you. They also put a Venom debuff on you. Yeah, Venom debuff on you, and it can be pretty nasty in the long run, but here it's not too bad because your character's hits like a truck, like really, really hard. And the fact that Rickard and Maria guy can deal up to 400 or 500 damage actually helps killing them in 1 round or 2 round, So it's not the worst.
Ooh, we get me warped on.
The final one, though. The final one, if you get ambushed, though, it could be pretty dicey. But in this one, he's going to use the warp tome with the Sage Wisdom. Sage Wisdom combo. And since Maria has all this agility gear on her, she's not the one that's going to be casting it because it doesn't matter. Yeah, it really doesn't matter who casts it because their stats is going to be maxed anyway. But
I have an extra warp tome, but it's not going to do anything.
Since Guy has absolutely nothing equipped that gives agility, well, he's the best character to actually use the warp tome.
So when it comes to the warp tone or teleporting an enemy out of battle, I assume you don't get any experience for that battle?
Oh no, you get credit. But I mean, this game doesn't have a traditional experience system like the other FF games.
Yeah, if you warp 7 enemies, it doesn't actually give you 7 actions. I think only gives you one like point of experience. So really, it's pretty useless in general, I think.
Yes, I mean, to answer some questions, yes, the Emperor can be warped, he can be teleported, and other things like that. You can probably even toad enemies, and I think if you toad them, they walk off screen.
Yeah, if you
It's
told them,
considered a
they
K.
actually
It's
freeze.
technically considered a kill.
Yeah. Actually, if you toad them, they actually run away from the encounter, and it doesn't give you credits for it.
I mean, to be fair, if I get turned into a toad, I'm probably going to run away as well.
Fair enough.
Yeah, or hop away, really, you know.
I hope you guys are enjoying this dance break. I mean, the world has been saved. Wait. Oh, jeez.
Oh, no.
Look who showed up. Bin decided to become the new emperor.
If you didn't actually notice yet, or figured out yet, the Dark Knight, Black Knight, or whoever you saw at the beginning of the run and at the end of the Dreadnought is actually Bin, the fourth character / Leon.
I will say that they all had really good moves. That was like a really, really good dance. A lot of great choreography in that dance.
I cannot deny that. So yeah, now we go back to Sid, and Sid, well, like every other character that you meet up, dies, and with that, gives you access to the airship. And yes, you can actually forget to talk to Sid and make your way to the airship, and not being able to actually use it because you forgot to go talk to him. But at least
it's super easy to forget. It's super easy to forget plot triggers when you are learning this game, and to make silly mistakes like going to your next destination without the keyword or the key item that you need in order to advance the story. Not saying it's common, but it's happened.
Yeah. So now the encounters on the overworld, I like to say that they upgraded themselves to a better version of the enemies that they were before, and it doesn't really make any difference, I guess, because when you get the airship, everything just doesn't matter because you're not stepping on the ground anymore, or almost never.
So in terms of the story, Sid was fighting along the airship alongside us, apparently off-screen, while we were climbing the Cyclone, and apparently suffered a mortal wound. That's not really well explained until you go into Paul's house and you find that he's resting there, but he's not going to recover, unfortunately. So then, as part of his farewell, he actually gives us access to his airship. So now we have full access to that and the rest of the map, and we can go anywhere we want. We don't have to, no longer have to charge to go anywhere, and fly wherever we want to at this point. And we ditched the ship that we got earlier from Layla because we're not going back to it.
So yeah, now we're in Castle Palamisha, where Leon / Bin proclaimed to be the new emperor, and it's where he's actually is right now. And going up all these floors can be really tedious because enemies here, like the general, as you see, hits really hard and will always kill you in one shot. But
yeah, these guys are not very considerate of my HP totals.
And some enemies, like the the vampire girl or those plants that actually confuse you, like it can be real bad because if you get ambushed by them, your party is most likely gonna die if they actually land this AOE charm on you.
This is where I'm kind of relying on the autosave to because for most floors I'm going to get probably 3 to 5 encounters, and I'm generally risking it that I can make it through the entire floor without having to quick save. But some of the longer floors I'm just going to take a safety quick save in case, because I don't really want to get a nasty encounter. I mean, these fights are usually pretty fine. If I run away instantly or if it's a preemptive, they're usually not much of a problem. But if I get ambushed, they can turn deadly really quick. So starting on the next floor, I think I'm going to start quick saving here, unless this forces me here. These two general fight, especially if it's an ambush, that's like a death sentence almost, unless I'm really lucky. I'm really just hoping that I can run away before these guys take turns on me, because if I can't, it's going to slow things down and be very, very painful.
Yeah, the floors starting from this one starts to be a little bit longer because you have to go around the entire floor again. And yeah, an encounter like this one, if you're really unlucky, well, it's game over. Actually, it's safe to say that anything at this, yeah, you almost forgot
really
you had the life.
Yeah. So there's an option. You can actually like tell your characters to forget spells. And it can have certain benefits in casual play, because if you repeatedly use my life spell, what's going to happen is my life spell is going to level up. And the benefit of leveling up is that it just restores slightly more HP when I cast life on my characters. But that is not worth the fact that it doubles the cost of my spell when I cast it. So if I was planning this more carefully in a casual setting, what I could do is I could actually forget to learn life and then use another tome to learn it, and it would have put it back at the lowest level, and I could abuse that again if I wanted to. I don't actually have any extra life tomes at the moment, though, so I don't really want to get it on either of my characters that has it, which is GDQ and Bargain. I have it on multiple characters so that if one of them dies, the other one can res and give flexibility. And also, you can actually cast it on your whole party, which is a really sweet feature.
Yeah, but at this point you have backup Phoenix Downs in case both of your characters that have life dies. Then you can actually use one Phoenix Down to get one up.
This is about hedging your bets and being safe and smart, especially for a marathon.
Which is why after if you do the last shop after Lamia Queen, you can get up to maybe between 12 and 15 Phoenix Downs for safety, which is not too bad. You can get more eaters. Oh yeah, I was talking about that earlier. The characters that can charm you in this dungeon. Yeah, that's
Oh no,
pretty nasty.
Things just got real.
They got real fast.
yeah, really.
Yeah, it wasn't said in the Lamia Queen fight, but the one of the only reason that you actually want to teleport her is because if she starts the fight with a blink 16, the fight is pretty much over because you will never be able to hit her. But here it really doesn't matter because you just run away from all of them. So now that you finally meet up with Leon/Bin and try to stop him, the real Emperor shows up, and well, he's not happy. So here, your friend Rickard will do the ultimate sacrifice and stay here and hold him while the Wyvern takes you away. And it's pretty much the last time you'll see Rickard.
Well, that DLC content, right?
Yep.
Please, Square Enix, please. Anytime.
Luxury, Rickard.
You will be missed.
Until the DLC comes out.
Right.
So now we're pretty much going to be approaching the final 2 dungeons of the game. Now that your whole party is here, the names finally start to make sense. We finally got the complete setup. And
yeah, it's just kind of a shame that you don't really get your full party until like the last 15 minutes of the run.
Yeah. So here, Leon is by far the best character in the game because one, he starts up with the highest HP pool in the entire game, with 1,000 and a little bit. I don't know the exact numbers. I didn't really see, but
He's well over 1,000 though.
Yeah, he's probably around like 1,100, 100, and he's really good. And also starts with swords level swords rank 8, like Rickard. And since you want to use the blood sword at the end, well, it's gonna make him hit like a truck still. And also, you can equip the poison axe if you want, because he also has rank 9 axe. But is it really useful? No one knows really.
I mean, one also really sweet quality of life feature of this one is when characters join your party or leave your party in this one, they come with a full set of gear when they join your party, and when they leave your party, they actually dump all their gear into your inventory. So you can't accidentally throw away the blood sword in this version of the game, whereas that is entirely possible in other versions.
Here's the ultimate question before it's too late. How many dragons / behemoth kings are you gonna get?
Can you not do that tonight? So this is a very nasty dungeon in terms of I can get I can see a couple of white dragons and green dragons in this dungeon, and they are unrunnable. So I really don't want to see them if I can avoid it.
I'll be fair here. I'll say 2.
In my world record earlier, I actually did see 4 dragons. So if I didn't see those, I probably would have been a minute faster. Thanks, game.
I'll say 0.
Hey, that's fair.
I'm gonna be a little bit yeah.
The Optimist. Have you seen this game before?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Have you played this game?
I don't think I've ever seen someone get lower than 2.
Well, that would be the first.
Well, we're 0 so far. We're not going to see it on the next 2 floors. This 3rd floor and the 4th floor. We'll see them again, maybe on the 5th and 6th floors.
Yeah.
I have to get through the 6 floors here to get into the final dungeon. In the meantime, we're getting flambéed. And there's something going on with the palette on that one character over there. I don't know what's going on with that one. There's occasional graphical glitches like that. Not very common, but it does happen.
When I had missed a quest on earlier in the year, I said let's go with floor 6. So it's
Let's not actually talk about floor 6 here. You don't want dragons on it. Now that you say that,
I really don't want it on 5. 5 is the longer floor. But,
yeah. I was gonna say the waterfall here also act as a damage tile, so no encounters when you get on them. And this one also stores the encounter until you step out of it. So
yeah, it's functionally the same as the lava and the ice tiles from earlier. For whatever reason. Oh, we got flambe. Oh, she's alive. No, she's not.
Yeah. Now the
So
lava
close.
in this game is the only place. Oh, sorry. The lava is the only damage tile in this game that does not store. I don't know why it's a but store your encounter, so you can actually skip them on that. This is the only one I believe that can actually do that.
I hate this dungeon so much.
I don't know why.
Oh boy.
Yeah, if there was a way to reduce the amount of ambushes you would get, it'd be a really nice.
I can't imagine why.
No, I don't know. Huh?
Come on, Ben.
Oh.
No.
Yeah, so this is probably the worst dungeon because enemies do a lot of AoEs, and they hit for like you saw.
That's okay. That's okay. We got more time to hang out with you guys.
Yeah, there you go. Think of the positives,
I said it was going to take 2 hours and 35, and I'm going to use all 2 hours and 35 if I have to. This is still, the funny thing about it, like, even only 4 months away from the release of this is now the fastest version of the game that we're aware of. In just 4 months, we've already lowered the time under the PSP and GBA versions, which was the previous fastest versions.
Oh, do you actually buy Ace here?
I do actually still buy haste here, and I did that in my run earlier. Oh, but I don't have enough money. But I will unless I sell something valuable like that.
So this is another side strat that you can use, which using aced berserk on characters improve the number of hits you can do, but like every other spell or buff, using level 8 of a spell doesn't guarantee you level 8 on your characters, because the way it works, and I believe it still works as in the other version, whenever you cast a spell of a rank 8, it's kind of hard to explain, grasp the way it works, but whenever you cast let's say rank 8 aced, the ace itself has accuracy as well, so you can actually miss casting ace on yourself, and I think it is a minimum of rank 1 that you always get on you. So whenever you use the tome, you can have from 1 to rank 8 ace cast on you, and every time you use the tome or spell, it gives you the better output of that buff. So keep going up if you get a better buff from it. So yeah, in this case, using ace can give you up to 8, but if you're really unlucky, then it really won't make any difference.
Sorry, hotfix.
Oh.
That was kind of the abridged version of how it works, but it's more in depth than that.
Okay, we're back on the dragon floors again. So once again, if you guys want to get your predictions in for the number of dragons I'm going to see in the course of this run, we're so far up to 0.
Which is a real surprise, to be honest.
Boy, hotfix, she's just not having a good time here.
Poor hotfix. Poor hotfix.
Seeing 0 dragon is real surprising. It'd be a shame to see a dragon.
I see someone else in chat is going with me and saying 0.
We're on 0 so far. We have to get through this floor and the next floor. And there's also, on the very higher floors of the last dungeon is where we can also start seeing them again. Oh.
Yeah.
So hotfix actually got confused, and then when I used the auto command, what happened was she decides to attack. Oh, jeez.
Oh,
Well,
man.
oh my goodness.
Did I ever tell you that FF2 is a really charming run?
Yeah, we highly recommend this game to brand new runners.
Actually, it's funny to say that, because there was a new runner that actually used the guides that I put up in the Discord, and actually, I think his first run was like a 239 actually. So it's not so bad. It's just trying to live with the RNG. What could go wrong?
Well, if we don't get any dragons, maybe we can count the number of times that hotfix sees the floor. To be fair, they're very pretty floors.
They are. Like, the background is very nice.
Backgrounds are great. The only thing better is probably the music. And you're about to... I mean, once I get into the next dungeon, the single best track I feel in the game is coming up.
I also really enjoyed the mist effect they added on top of everything. It just adds so much more of a element in that.
It's true. They added some really nice effect in this version, I believe. It was in the PSP version as well, I think.
Yeah, it has a couple of extra graphical effects. It also had like a kind of like almost like a spotlight effect in some dungeons, especially in FF1 PSP. There was the one where you meet the Titan.
Yeah. Also, best music. I wouldn't say best music for me, but really nice music coming up. So.
Oh yeah, enjoy the jams here while I'm calling this.
Enjoyed the 5 seconds at a time every time he gets an encounter.
I promise you the vocals will kick in eventually.
I did enjoy the fact that this is all live instrumentals and not anything done through a MIDI device or computer or anything like that.
You think that they would learn after releasing that FF8 remaster,
Yeah.
Because I heard they use MIDI files in that when they put the remaster up.
And we are still at our 0 dragon count. We might see them on the higher floors of this dungeon here, but we are still so far rocking a 0 dragon count, which
It's
is
not
unusual.
over yet. It's not over
It's
yet.
not over. No way it's over.
Just remember that whole speaking it, you know.
Hey, if we're lucky, we're going to see our great pal.
Enter a prediction of 0.
If we're lucky, we're going to see our great pal Iron Giant at some point, but we'll see. We'll see. Iron Giant would be a pretty nice view right about now, but you won't see him for a little bit.
He's admittedly pretty ugly. I don't like his sprite at all. In this version, I feel like they did better justice to him in other remakes, even if it's not quite as faithful to the original artwork drawn by a mono. There are 10 floors here. I just gotta slog my way through them. I don't have to fight anything unless I run into dragons or if I see a king behemoth, and those will only really show up on the top floors.
Right now, it's been a really nice 2 floors, like actually nice 2 floors. No big issue coming up. Also, here's more of the.
Well, there could be. This can turn around real quick, though.
Well, as a.
Ooh. Okay.
Hey, there you go. That's nice. Also, here you're gonna see another neat shortcut in a few seconds. You'd think that this would be a dead end here, but hey, there's a hole in the wall.
Those darn holes.
Whoever came up with this this design, like the design of this tower, I think they forgot to patch some holes.
There's definitely some budget cuts they've been running with.
Also, in this room, you would usually go around the entire room again, but we don't have time for that, so we're gonna punch a few holes in the wall, make our way through the middle.
Oh my god, these fights. I'm so glad these are not ambushes, because they could be... It's like an instant game over.
Also, yeah. This chest right here, one of the extra bosses that they have in this dungeon. I wouldn't really call them super bosses, but they just extra for some really good weapons / armor, which are not very useful for the run, but as a casual run, maybe. Right now, I think the amount of ambushes you had is really, really good.
We're down to the final 4 floors now. This is the longest remaining floor.
Yeah, this is by far the longest one. There's no holes in the walls, so you cannot go to the end of the floors right away.
There's only one more shortcut coming up, I think, on the 8th floor, and that is the last one that I'll be using.
Could you get a blacksmith to make a hole?
Yeah, Tackle's back all the way in Altair. I'm sure he could do something.
There you go. Yeah.
You want to bring him all the way over here?
Sure, why not? Let's make a party.
I mean, we have 4 members already. It is a party. We can just add a 5th. I'm sure the game's going to easily allow that.
Oh yeah.
Is that an FF4 joke again?
You know, that's not what I was intending, but let's go with it.
Yeah, let's take it.
Oh, here we go. That's a game over, probably. Watch.
Yeah, this is definitely game over. Oh.
Oh, you thought you were going fast? Nope. Not happening. Thankfully, that was right at the start of the floor, so there was an auto save right there.
Well, that's what you get for saying for thinking the game for not giving you an ambush earlier.
We're back in dragon territory, by the way. This is where it can happen.
Yeah. The final floor is the one with the highest encounter rate for Dragon / Beam King.
That's the last shortcut there. Take a quick save.
Yeah. The final 2 floors coming up, and this one is really short. So let's say outside of this encounter, he probably has 2 more encounters, or maybe 1.
Yeah, time is going to be coming up real quick. I'm going to be starting the final fight pretty soon. Oh, geez, unless I do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
you were just making sure to see if we can get that extra dragon in. That's what that was.
Wow, that was actually
That's
0
RNG manipulation right there. Clearly.
Yeah, there you go.
So there's 1 more encounter coming up. Yep.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, we almost made it.
There it is.
There it is. Dragon manip.
Whoever said one actually won this entire thing.
Yeah. There was someone in the chat that did say one.
Congratulations, you are the winner. Ooh, a whole
So this is going to be the final fight. The final fight is really easy, obviously, because the blood sword hits, and
I'm going to be calling time probably really quick. This does not last long.
I'm not going to explain anything because this goes by so quick. You just look at the blood sword do the job.
Oh, nice miss, Furion. There it is, game. That's time.
Wow, nice. GG.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you, Poison Axe.
So the way blood sword works, obviously bypass defense and actually hits you for a set amount of HP based on your max HP. So if you hit him 8 times, you deal up to 7,000 damage a shot. So yeah.
Well, that was
sorry.
That was a
the
fantastic.
blood sword's just a little overpowered. Just a little bit.
Yeah. Fun fact: if you actually try to fight this boss without the blood sword, he's actually really hard.
Yeah, he actually has a very nasty drain effect when he's attacking your characters. So if you try to fight him legitimately, it can be quite the challenge.
GG. That was a really, really fun and intense run there. I'm glad we were able to get it all taken, show it all and stuff.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys for approaching us about putting this out there. I've been running this actually probably 3 or 4 years now, and I never really thought this was going to be a game that I'd be showing, or like the first thing that I might be showing on the GDQ channel someday. But here we are.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, do you all have any shout outs, any community base that you would like to quickly give a shout out for?
I'll start and I'll shout out a number of runners that have been running like either this or GBA or PSP over the years. Kaguya, Nikki, Quazplum, Soma SR. I think it's Soma underscore SR if you're looking for other Twitch names. I especially want to shout out a Japanese runner named Zaibatsu. I don't remember the end of his Twitch name specifically, but he was probably the one that set us on the path with the routing for this one, because we were initially trying to change or insert the PSP route into this one, and then he came up with a route that was a lot lower on resources, that was a lot faster than what we were coming up with, and we just kind of took his route and refined it. And I think Deln has the name there correctly in the chat. But there's been a lot of great runners of this one, especially there's some Japanese runners. I think their names are like Koshima and Nanara. I don't know if there's any other ones.
Chicken Tatsu.
Chicken Tatsu, that's right. Thank you. I think it's chicken underscore Tatsu for that one. But there's been plenty of runners that have helped get this game to where it has been, being the new fastest version on the block. And this is a criminally underloved game. It's kind of the black sheep of the FF franchise, but it's still actually a pretty interesting speed run. So I'm glad I had a chance to show it here, and I am exceptionally glad that Deln was able to join me here, because he's been a long-time runner of this as well.
Yeah, that was it was a really nice run. Actually, sub 230 is pretty much what do you expect from any marathon / show runs.
I mean, we died a lot of times, and we had a lot of fun with that. So we're drawing it out for having a lot of fun here.
Yeah. So if anyone was interested in wanting to know more about either Final Fantasy speedruns or specifically, Final Fantasy 2, or even just the Pixel Remaster speedruns, is there a central hub, or is there a place anyone can go to check leaderboards for these games, or anything else along those lines?
FF1 and FF2 both have separate entries on speedrun.com, and we have a Discord where people can go there. The Discord encompasses both FF1 and FF2, many of the versions. It focuses primarily on the remakes, but there are some runners for the NES remakes. There's a separate leaderboard for the NES version for whatever reason. But if you guys are interested, I can drop a link for that in the chat, and then you can go check that out when you get a chance.
Yeah, there's guides set up for at least FF1 and FF2. So
Yeah, there's been lots of great people that have been putting out guides. I have a guide out, and although I haven't updated it, Dylan has a much, much more updated guide. I'm sure he'll be altering it with some new strats as well. But let me find that invite to the Discord, and then I'll drop that in the chat for people.
And in the meantime, Dylan, if you'd had any extra shout outs you wanted to just toss out real fast.
yeah, shout out to everybody watching this run, sticking with us through the 2 hours and 28 minutes. Everybody here is great for actually enjoying this. Hopefully they enjoyed it, and all the crazy puns that came out of it.
And finally, if anyone was interested in following either one of y'all, where would they go?
You can find me on Twitch at my name listed on the stream. Spelled exactly that way. Anything like that? I don't know about Dylan.
Yeah, same thing. Doesn't have anything extra added to it.
All right. Any other final shout outs y'all would like to have? Any other final comments?
Shout out to you for allowing this run to happen.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Well, just another quick couple announcements real fast. If you missed this show and you're like, oh man, I just missed Final Fantasy II, the Pixel Remaster. Well, don't worry. We have a YouTube channel where we have all of our shows. It's just going to be at youtube.com/GamesDoneQuick. It's going to archive of our past runs, past shows, past GDQ events. All of that is in there. Now, don't also forget that we have a new Sum of Best Segments channel that is also on YouTube. That's a highlight channel with regular videos, just like our main channel, but with small little highlight reels for the main events, hotfix, everything else along those lines. You can just use !highlights in chat to find out more information about that. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube, hi, feel free to join us over at twitch.tv/GamestoneQuick, where you can check out our live shows starting most nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. And while you're at our Twitch channel, don't forget that Hotfix is funded in part thanks to your subscription and bits, so please consider subscribing to help support our future broadcast. And finally, one of the main big events, Awesome Games Done Quick 2022 Online, is going to be starting January 9th. It's only a little bit over a month away. It's going to come by before you know it. Just go to gamesdonequick.com for more information and detailed events on the event. Now, I know here on the Final Fantasy II layout on the screen right now, it says, it's done. Now let's get out of here. Don't forget, we're not done here on the GDQ Hotfix. While the bargain bin is closing its doors for the evening, don't worry. We have speedruns from the crypt coming up at the top of the hour with some amazing, amazing games, including one of my favorite Biohazard, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. I promise you I'll get that name right soon. But we have that and so many other games with Ecdysis hosting. Stay tuned. It's coming up at the top of the hour. Now's a great time to get up, get those drinks, go ahead and hydrate yourself, stretch a little bit, use the restroom, everything else to get and sit back, relax for speedruns from the crypt here in just a little bit. Thank you all so very, very much. Forsyth, Down, thank you so much for being a part of this amazing show. And for you all in chat, stay tuned. Speedruns from the crypt coming up shortly.